Hi folks. Today we're not going to talk about bonsai trees. Instead, we're going to talk about moss. You'll notice we have several trees here, and all of them have really nice growths of moss. The purpose of the moss is to enhance the appearance of the tree, make it look like it's been established in the pot for a long time, whether it has or not, and help enhance the imaginary feeling that we're looking at a large old tree rather than a garden shrub or something that's been cut down and shaped or contrived. This pyracantha here is a tree that we showed 1 week ago, and it was prepped for a show. Now in this case, the moss doesn't grow naturally or natively on the tree, although it may continue to stay established there while it's in the garden. But it's a situation where we basically grew the moss in another place and then placed it on the soil when we prepped the tree for a show. And there are some good reasons why we do this. The growing conditions for the moss tend to be different from optimal growing conditions for the bonsai. This Chinese elm here, and you may recognize this from previous videos, has a good growth of moss over almost the entire pot, and although it looks green and verdant and beautiful, this isn't really good for the tree. The reason is the moss can both trap moisture in the soil and leave it waterlogged, or it can prevent moisture from going down into the soil, and it can end up starving the tree or keeping the soil overly dry. This little Satsuki azalea here is another piece that we prepared for a show to use as an accent. And again, the moss was grown at another place and placed on here when this was crafted. So now we'll show you how to grow moss and talk a little bit about where to get it from if you're not going to try to keep it on the tree all the time. Now, I'm not saying you can't keep it on the tree all the time. You certainly can, and if you only have one or a few trees and they're trees that are in a shady location, then you can certainly do that. Now, what we've done here is we've taken a very wide and shallow pot, and I bought this pot to put a tree in because I really love this pot but never quite found the right tree for it. And it occurred to me that we can use this pot to grow moss. So we're going to use soil here, and this is different from my normal mixture. There's no decomposed granite in this soil. There's a lot more sand in it, and the reason for that is we actually want to trap a fairly high level of moisture in here in order to keep the moss growing and happy. Now we're going to keep the top of the soil a bit below the lip of the pot, and the reason for that is once the moss gets going, it can actually gain quite a bit of thickness. These pieces of moss here were actually harvested from another bonsai, and they were getting to the point where they were taking over the soil. What we did was we pulled them off the top of the soil, and we got a little bit of soil on the underside, and then what we'll do is we'll just place them here in this pot on top of the soil. And now we'll talk about how to harvest it. Now, if you don't have an existing bonsai with a good growth of moss, you can go find moss in shady locations where the soil is a little bit muddy or silty, because you need a situation where the soil retains a good bit of moisture. Now we'll go back to our Chinese elm here, and when the moss gets like this, it's not the healthiest situation for the tree. So what we'll do is we'll just peel this up like this and then put it in our growing flat. One other thing, when you get moss going up the sides of the tree trunk, on a pine or a juniper, it can actually rot the wood at the base of the tree. So that's really undesirable. So we'll just take our moss out of here, and we're not going to take all of it off the elm. We're actually going to leave some so that it can kind of regenerate it. and that gives us a source as well as keeps some of the beauty of the moss without imperiling the health of the tree. So we'll just take these pieces of moss and put them there like that. Soil, and it's okay to use this fine stuff on top of the tree just to kind of fill in. So that's just what we'll do here. And that'll actually encourage the moss to come back. And we'll just kind of fill that in like that. Now I don't know that I would do this with a pine because they really like free draining soil, but elms are tolerant of soil that holds a little water, and in some cases they even need it. So we'll just do like that. Now the last thing we'll do is we'll do a little watering. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to set the nozzle over to mist on the elm because the elm's already been watered, there's plenty of water in the soil, and we just need moisture to get the fill-in soil to hold. So that's our elm, and we'll return that to the garden. And then we'll actually go to full shower mode for our flat of moss here. And get plenty of water in the soil. Now the beauty part of growing moss separately like this is you can give it as much shade or water as it needs. You can grow as much as you want. Then when you show the tree, you can place it how you want. Load it up or use just a little, and then after the show you can reduce it back down if you need to, or leave it to grow on. Okay, at this point our moss project is pretty well complete, and now all I need to do is take our shallow pot full of moss here and place it in a nice shady place in the garden where it'll get plenty of shade, and then make sure it gets plenty of water and stays good and moist, and then we can use this whenever we need it. Thank you for watching, folks.